Every time a car brakes, something brutal and almost invisible happens. In just seconds, the brake discs convert speed into extreme heat, withstand enormous pressures, and prevent tons of metal from continuing to move. What's surprising is that these critical parts are born from fire, recycled steel, and gigantic factories. Manufacturing a brake disc seems at first glance a simple process. A metal block enters an industrial line and comes out transformed into a circular piece ready for a car. But the reality is much more complex. Behind each disc lies metallurgy, recycling, extremely high-temperature furnaces, precision machining, heat treatments, and extremely rigorous dimensional controls. The disc must withstand thousands of braking events, violent temperature changes, constant pressure from the brake pads, and wear cycles that repeat for years. That's why, in a huge auto parts factory, nothing is left to chance. The material must have a stable composition, the internal structure of the metal must be uniform, the friction surfaces must be perfectly parallel. And all of this must be achieved on a large scale, because billions of discs are manufactured each year to supply street vehicles, utility vehicles, trucks, and high-performance cars worldwide. The story of brake discs begins in a vast yard filled with scrap metal. Remnants of decommissioned cars, dismantled industrial machinery, beams, structures, steel offcuts, and parts that have reached the end of their useful life arrive by truck from all over the country and the world. From above, these yards look like mountains of metal in disarray. But inside a modern plant, this apparent chaos is the first step in a highly controlled transformation. Overhead cranes equipped with enormous electromagnets lift tons of scrap metal at once. The metal moves from one area to another while operators and automated systems remove unwanted materials. Plastics, rubber, cables, aluminum, copper, and other contaminants must be separated before the steel enters the metallurgical phase. The reason is simple. A brake disc cannot be manufactured with an unpredictable mixture. Its material needs a stable chemical composition, as this will determine its hardness, heat resistance, and performance under friction. After this initial sorting, the steel is sent to large industrial crushers. Inside these machines, rotating shafts with heavy hammers or high-strength blades strike and tear apart the scrap metal, reducing it to much smaller fragments. The goal is not only to facilitate transport, but also to homogenize the material and prepare a more even feed for the furnace. A huge piece of frame or a thick steel plate is transformed into thousands of smaller pieces, much more manageable for the next stage. Once shredded, the metal travels along conveyor belts where further separation systems come into play. Magnets extract the ferrous steel. Eddy current separators remove non-ferrous metals. Optical sensors and sorting equipment detect any remaining residue. Some plants even adjust the material according to its approximate carbon or alloying content, because the ultimate goal is to produce the most consistent metal charge possible. This ensures that the subsequent melting process always performs predictably. With the scrap metal prepared, one of the most spectacular moments in the entire factory arrives: melting in an electric arc furnace. The material enters an enormous chamber lined with refractory materials capable of withstanding extreme heat. When the furnace closes, 3 gigantic graphite electrodes descend onto the charge. An intense electric arc is generated between them and the metal, a discharge of energy capable of raising the temperature to brutal levels and rapidly melting the steel scrap. Inside the furnace, the steel begins to collapse in on itself. The solid pieces lose their shape, soften, and eventually become an incandescent liquid mass. During this stage, oxygen is also injected to promote the combustion of impurities and regulate the temperature. At the same time, fluxes, such as lime, are added to form a slag layer on the surface. This slag performs a crucial function. It traps oxides, sulfur, and other unwanted substances, helping to purify the metal. But melting isn't enough. The metal must also be refined. Metallurgical engineers analyze the composition and add elements to correct the carbon content or modify specific properties of the steel or cast iron intended for the part. This control is essential. A brake disc operates under severe thermal cycles. If the material doesn't have the appropriate microstructure, it can crack, deform, or wear unevenly. When the molten metal reaches the desired composition, it is poured. The molten metal flows into a large lined ladle capable of maintaining it at still extreme temperatures. There, final adjustments such as deoxidation can be made to reduce the presence of dissolved gases that could later cause internal defects. The quality of the liquid metal is crucial. A poor, an inclusion, or poorly controlled segregation can compromise the disc's performance during braking. From the ladle, the metal moves to the casting system. In modern facilities, this phase can be carried out by continuous casting or through specially designed molds to create preforms that will then be machined. Upon contact with cooled surfaces, the metal begins to solidify. First, a rigid outer skin forms, then the interior finishes cooling gradually. Rollers, cooling channels, and thermal control systems ensure that solidification occurs uniformly. At that moment, the first tangible version of the future disc is born. It still lacks a finished friction surface, holes, ventilation, and precise tolerances. It is merely a raw metal body, a preform. But it already contains the structural basis of a component that will one day absorb some of the kinetic energy of a vehicle traveling at high speed. When the preforms arrive from the casting, their appearance is still far from the final product. The surface is rough and may retain oxide scale, burrs, or variations due to cooling. At first glance, they vaguely resemble a brake disc, but they couldn't yet be mounted on a vehicle. They lack the most important thing: precision. That's why the next stage takes place in the machining area, one of the most precise and controlled sectors in the entire factory. There, the atmosphere changes completely. The focus shifts from furnaces to CNC centers, automatic lathes, carbide tools, and digital measuring systems. Here it's not about melting or forming, it's about taking a raw piece to extremely fine tolerances. The preform is placed on the chuck of a CNC lathe where it is firmly held while it begins to rotate at high speed. A carbide-tipped cutting tool moves in front of it. Each pass removes a very thin layer of material. First, the main faces of the disc are ground, the surfaces that will later come into contact with the brake pads. Next, the outer diameter, inner diameter, and central mounting area are machined. At first glance, removing a few tenths or hundredths of a millimeter might seem like a minor task. But in a brake disc, that precision is everything. The two friction surfaces must be flat, clean, and perfectly parallel to each other. If one surface is higher than the other, or if there is even the slightest deviation in the geometry, the disc will vibrate, cause uneven wear on the brake pads, or generate pulsations in the pedal when braking. Tolerances are extremely tight. In many cases, the permissible variations between one part and another are measured in thousandths of an inch or hundredths of a millimeter. This requires not only precise machines, but also thermal control, well-calibrated tools, and constant process monitoring. In modern lines, built-in sensors verify dimensions in real time and automatically compensate for small deviations caused by tool wear or temperature changes. But machining isn't limited to the disc faces. In the central area, the hub or cap is machined, depending on the design. Holes are also drilled for the bolts or studs that attach the disc to the wheel. In some models, the central housing that fits with the vehicle's hub is also machined. Everything must be precisely aligned because the disc will rotate at high speed along with the wheel. Even a slight imbalance or eccentricity can result in vibrations, noise, or premature wear. In the case of ventilated discs, the complexity increases even further. These models are not solid. Inside, they incorporate ventilation channels or spaces that allow for better dissipation of the heat generated during braking. This design improves thermal performance and delays the onset of fatigue, deformation, or loss of effectiveness due to overheating. Manufacturing this type of disc requires machining and controlling not only the outer surface, but also the entire internal geometry, which must remain symmetrical and stable. In some cases, additional grooves, perforations, or special finishes are also applied, especially to discs designed for sports or high-performance applications. These configurations aim to improve the evacuation of gases, water, or wear particles, although they also add complexity to the process. Each variant requires specific software, specialized tools, and adapted quality controls. One of the most important factors in this stage is balancing. The finished disc must rotate stably. At high speeds, even the slightest difference in mass distribution can be amplified and cause significant vibrations. That's why many plants include balancing stations where sensors detect imbalances and determine if small amounts of material need to be removed from specific points. It's almost surgical precision. The part may weigh several kilograms, but its stability depends on minute corrections. Meanwhile, a cooling and lubrication system accompanies the cutting operation. The goal is to prevent overheating of the tool and workpiece, improve the surface finish, and remove metal chips from the work area. In high production lines, these chips are not wasted. They are collected, separated, and often returned to the metal recycling circuit, closing part of the industrial cycle. As the discs move along the line, they lose their rough, crude appearance. They begin to display shiny surfaces, perfectly smooth faces, and defined edges. They are now clearly brake discs. However, there is still a hidden problem. Both the casting and machining processes may have left internal stresses in the metal. These stresses are not always visible, but under intense heat, they could cause deformation. After machining, the disc appears ready. Its friction surfaces are finished, the holes are drilled, and the overall geometry matches the design. But a crucial stage remains, one of those phases that the end user almost never imagines, yet which largely defines the product's reliability: heat treatment. The disc enters long industrial furnaces or chambers specifically designed to heat entire batches under highly controlled conditions. There, the temperature rises to a carefully established range, high enough to relieve internal stresses and stabilize the material's structure, but without negatively altering the already achieved geometry. For a precise amount of time, the metal remains in this thermal atmosphere while its crystalline lattice reorganizes at a microscopic scale. The function of this process is profound. During casting and machining, the material underwent cooling, contraction, chip removal, and internal stresses that can become trapped in its microstructure. To the naked eye, the disc appears perfect. But if these stresses remain, a hard braking event could trigger them. The disc would heat unevenly, deform slightly, and begin to vibrate. That's why heat treatment isn't a luxury, it's a guarantee of stability. Once the holding time is complete, cooling begins, and here again, nothing can be improvised. In many plants, the temperature decrease is carried out gradually, either within the furnace itself or in separate chambers to avoid thermal shocks that introduce new stresses. The goal is for the disc to emerge not only more stable, but also prepared to withstand thousands of heating and cooling cycles in the actual vehicle. After heat treatment, many parts undergo a grinding or fine finishing phase. Although the previous machining already left the surfaces in very good condition, this stage can further improve the surface texture and ensure uniform initial contact with the pads. Some manufacturers even design the final finish with the brake break-in period in mind. That is, how the assembly will perform during the first few kilometers of use. Anti-corrosion coatings can also be added to areas not directly involved in friction, such as the cap or outer edges. This is especially important for vehicles operating in humid environments or where salt, mud, and weathering constantly attack the metal. The coating is not intended to alter braking performance, but rather to extend the component's appearance and surface durability in service. Next comes one of the most demanding areas in the entire factory: inspection. It's not enough for the disc to have passed through all the machines. It must demonstrate that it meets specifications. Overall dimensions, thickness, parallelism between faces, center diameter, hole pattern, concentricity, and runout are all checked. Any deviation outside of tolerance can result in rejection. On high production lines, a large part of these checks are performed with automated instruments. Contact sensors, lasers, and digital measuring stations verify parameters in seconds that previously required much more time. However, for critical parts or control sampling, high-precision metrological equipment and specialized technicians are still involved. In addition to geometry, the integrity of the material is also evaluated. Depending on the manufacturer and the level of requirements, some parts may undergo non-destructive testing to look for internal cracks, porosity, or discontinuities. The reason is clear. A brake disc operates in one of the vehicle's most sensitive systems. If it fails, it's not just a part that's lost. The very ability to stop the car is compromised. At this stage, the material's hardness, thermal response, and surface finish quality can also be checked. Each parameter has a direct impact on final performance. An excessively rough surface could accelerate wear. Incorrect hardness would alter the interaction between the disc and the pad. Poor thermal stability would increase the likelihood of warping. Everything is connected. Once the disc passes inspection, it enters the cleaning and protection phase for shipment. Many parts receive a thin film of anti-corrosion oil or a temporary protective coating that preserves the surface during storage and transport. They are then packaged individually or in sets using spacers and materials that prevent impacts between parts. The boxes are grouped on pallets and prepared for shipment to automotive terminals, distributors, or the replacement market.